Welcome to Amigos IAS Academy. In today's session, we shall be discussing 5 important articles which are published in your The Hindu newspaper and the Indian Express. So these are 5 important topics which we shall be discussing in today's session. The first topic is about minimum vote percentage for uncontested elections. So before going in details of this article, we should be knowing what is democracy and what are the importance of elections. First is, what is democracy? Democracy is a political system in which people are given opportunity to choose their own representatives. And what is importance of election? Election is used as an instrument to uphold the principle of democracy. First important point about election is that it is a visible symbol of democracy. And second is, it upholds the majority rule in the country. And third is inclusivity. Though it upholds the principle of majority, it gives voice to most downtrodden sections of the society to voice their concerns regarding elections. And next is free and fair principle. So, free and fair conducting of election gives legitimacy to your democracy. So, this is importance of election in any democratic society. Now, what is the issue in today's article? This article is majorly revolving around your section 53 and that too clause 2 of Representation of People's Act 1951. Now, to understand this section, let us consider there is one MP seat which is present in a particular state. To this one MP seat, there are 5 candidates who file their nominations. Okay? So, for one MP seat, there are 5 members who file their nominations to contest in elections. Now, before the date of closure, 4 members have withdrawn their nominations. Now, only one person is remaining who is contesting for one MP seat. As per this section 53, clause 2, if number of persons contesting for seat is equals to number of seat, like this situation, there is no need to conduct election and this person shall be declared as MP directly. Means, in this case, there is no need of conducting elections. The person, whoever the person is, that person will be declared as the winner of the election. Do you think this second case is upholding the principle of democracy? Do you think it is giving opportunity to people to choose their leader? No, it is not giving opportunity to people to represent their own leader. But whereas here, this is a correct form of democracy, but this is not. Under section 53, such clause is being mentioned, which is filed in the form of public interest litigation before Supreme Court, and this is still under the Supreme Court. No final judgment is given, but this brings us to the point of discussion about section 53. So, under section 53, read clause 1. If the number of contesting candidates is more than the number of seats to be filled, a poll shall be taken. For example, the first case which we have discussed, where there are 5 members who are contesting for one MP seat, means number of people who are contesting is more than the number of seats, then election can be taken place, is your first clause under section 53. What about clause 2? If the number of such candidates is equal to, means equal to the number of seats to be filled, it means only one member is there and there is only one seat. In such situation, such candidate to be duly elected to fill those seats, means directly the person will be elected. This is clause 2 of your section 53. Now, what are the observations made by Supreme Court in this case? Supreme Court highlighted democracy is based on majority rule and suggested that even in uncontested election, so the first clause is where 5 members are contesting for 1 MP seat, that is your contested election. Where only 1 person is contesting for 1 seat, that is your uncontested elections. So that is the difference. Contested means where election is happening. Uncontested means there is no election, directly the member is declared as the MP or MLA. So Supreme Court said that the principle of democracy is your majority rule, be it uncontested or contested election. Candidate should receive minimum percentage of vote to be declared elected. So what is Supreme Court saying? Even for uncontested election, the candidate, whoever is contesting for election, should be getting a certain percentage of votes to be declared as elected. So that is what Supreme Court said. Ensure that elected candidate has some level of popular support even when no competition exists. So Supreme Court has not given any final judgment in this particular case, but it just asked government to take sufficient measures to declare certain minimum percentage of votes which the person who is contesting for 1 seat should be getting. So that is what Supreme Court has asked, and the judgment is not yet given. It just asked government to take 4 weeks of time to file its own petition. And now this brings us to the point to go back and refer what are the landmark Supreme Court judgments which are given to reform election system in India. First and foremost important case which you have to remember is People's Union for Civil Liberties, that is PUCL versus Union of India. It is given in 2013. This introduced the system of your NOTA. Now moving on to the next topic of the day is about Iran nuclear deal. If you are following newspapers, you might have seen many articles which are telling about diplomatic talks going between USA and Iran. So Oman is acting as a mediator for these talks, and already 3 rounds of talks have been completed. The first round of talks conducted in Muscat, second round of talks in Rome, and third round conducted in Muscat again. Now, what is this nuclear deal about? Iran, under this nuclear deal, accepted to cut down its enriched uranium storage, whereas West agreed to lift all the sanctions imposed on Iran. So this is the crux of your Iran nuclear deal. It was mainly signed during Obama's regime, and this deal is also known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, who are the parties to this deal? It is mainly signed between Iran and P5+1 countries. P5 means permanent 5 members of UNSC, which are China, France, Russia, UK and USA. Germany is not part of P5 members, but it is involved in the negotiations. Apart from P5+1 countries, even European Union is also a member of these negotiations. Now, under this deal, Iran agreed to significantly cut its storage of enriched uranium and heavy water, all key components for nuclear weapon. And West agreed to lift sanctions which were imposed on Iran. After Trump came into rule during 2018, that is his first term of presidency, he unilaterally came out of this Iran nuclear deal. USA thought of adopting maximum pressure policy on Iran for renegotiating the Iran nuclear deal signed in 2015, but Iran didn't agree for renegotiations. This led to regional tensions, which led to attack on Saudi oil facilities by Iran, downing of US drone by Iran, and assassination of Irani's General Qasim Soleimani. These are the regional tensions which were observed during 2018. Now, after Trump, Biden came into power, but still Biden administration failed to revive the JCPO. Means Biden is not successful in reviving the Iran nuclear deal. Next, What is the present status of Iran? Here you should be knowing about axis of resistance. This axis of resistance is led by Iran and Iran supporters. Who are supporters of Iran? First is Hamas of Gaza. Second, Hezbollah, who are mainly present in Lebanon, and your Houthis of Yemen and Islamic Jihadists of Palestine. So these four groups are backed by Iran. Now, if you have observed international relations closely, Hamas of Gaza are already attacked by Israel. Hezbollah is also attacked by Israel. Islamic jihadists are also attacked by Israel. So, all the supporters of Iran are silenced by Israel. And if you observe in Syria, the government which is backed by Iran, that is Assad regime, has been brought down by opposition. So now Iran is suffering major setback due to Israel's conflict with all its supporters. And Iran is also suffering due to economic hardship due to sanctions imposed by all the countries, majorly USA. So this is the status of Iran and its supporters. The weakening of the Iran brought it to the table of diplomatic negotiations which are happening present between USA and Iran. Now, what are current challenges and opportunities? Iran reportedly has enough enriched fuel to produce nuclear weapon, a point acknowledged by Trump. So, if Iran is not brought to the table of negotiation, there are high chances where Iran can develop a nuclear bomb in coming few months. And what about Iran? Iran is already facing economic hardships due to sanctions imposed by USA. Now, even Iran want a way out of these hardships. That's why both Iran and USA are coming to negotiation table and discussing on signing a new nuclear deal which is giving opportunities for both USA and Iran. So this is all about the Iran nuclear deal. Next, moving on to third important topic, Zero Measles Rubella Elimination Campaign. This is launched by Indian government as part of our World Immunization Week. So what is World Immunization Week? World Immunization Week is celebrated annually in April last week. So in 2025, it is falling from 24th to 30th April. Why is this World Immunization Week celebrated? To recognize the collective action required to encourage the usage of vaccines to fight against various diseases. So it is creating awareness among people to use vaccines to fight diseases. So this is organized by your WHO. Now, a national immunization initiative to eliminate measles and rubella, two highly contagious viral diseases. Remember this, both measles and rubella are viral diseases. And measles is more contagious when compared to rubella. Measles literally causes death of 1 lakh children globally across all the areas. So this is very contagious when compared to rubella. It is launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. What is the aim of this campaign? To achieve zero transmission of measles rubella by 2026 through 95 plus vaccination coverage in all districts. So it is aiming for above 95% of vaccination coverage across all the districts. So the first and foremost, it is only concentrating on measles and rubella. Both are viral diseases and these cause, majorly measles cause death of 1 lakh children across the world annually, and it is launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. What is the aim of the program? To achieve zero transmission of measles and rubella by 2026, and added to that to achieve 95% of vaccination coverage in all the districts across India. Now, they have launched a new initiative, that is Act Now approach. So, the approach used by government to achieve zero measles and rubella is Act Now approach. Now, this is an acronym. A stands for Active Surveillance via Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. So, Integrated Disease Surveillance Program is launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in coordination with your World Bank. It is launched in 2004. Next, C stands for Community Mobilization by involving local panchayats, elected leaders and media. What is T? Targeted outreach in urban slums, migratory zones, outbreak prone areas. So, these three stands for active surveillance, C stands for community mobilization, T stands for targeted outreach. Now means urgency driven implementation with real time response mechanism, means we have to start now itself. So this is the approach which is followed by government under your zero elimination of measles and rubella. Moving on to the next topic of the day is about DRC and Congo. If you have seen, there is an ongoing conflict between Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A peace treaty is brokered by USA where both the countries agreed to sign the treaty. Now, going into the details of the conflict is majorly an ethnic conflict between two tribes, that is Tutsis and Hutus. Tutsis and Hutus are majorly present in Rwanda, but a genocide happened in 1994 where Hutus killed most of the Tutsis. There was a mass killing which happened in 1994 genocide. Later, Tutsis came into power. This made Hutus to run to DRC, and Hutus migrated to DRC's northeastern part. As if you see here is Rwanda, this is your DRC. Now, when Tutsis came into power, Hutus migrated to this area, which is the northeastern part of your DRC. Now, Tutsis majorly gave their support to M23 group. So, this is a rebellion group which is concentrating on fighting against Hutus which are settled in northeastern part of DRC. That is the first and foremost reason for your conflict between DRC and Rwanda, that is ethnic issue between Tutsis and Hutus. The second important major bone of contention is this northeastern area is majorly mineral rich area. So it is having minerals like cobalt, copper, tin, which are very rich in these minerals. The second reason is for power over mineral rich areas of DRC. So these two are the reasons for ongoing conflict between DRC and Rwanda. Please do remember M23. Your M23 group is backed by your Tutsis, which is attacking Hutus which are concentrated in northeastern part of your DRC. Now, Rwanda is a landlocked country. Remember that point, and its capital is Kigali. And Rwanda is also called as land of thousand hills. Remember these three important points. Rwanda is a landlocked country, its capital is Kigali, and it is called as land of thousand hills. Coming to DRC, DRC is the second largest country in Africa, and its capital is Kinshasa. And Katanga Plateau is a mineral rich plateau present in your DRC where minerals like copper, cobalt, tin and diamonds are majorly present. Congo River Basin is the home for DRC. So Katanga Plateau is very important. If you know, one of the reasons for the conflict is the power over mineral rich deposits of DRC. So this is DRC, Rwanda is here. In DRC, North Kivu and South Kivu areas are mineral rich areas, which you have to remember. Next, moving on to the fourth important topic of the day is about SMILE scheme. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Remember the ministry which launches the scheme? It can be asked in your prelims examination. So the SMILE scheme has been launched by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. What is the full form of SMILE? Support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. It majorly comprises of two components. First component is the welfare of transgenders and the second component is welfare of those who are begging. So central sector scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation for welfare of transgender person. Second component is central sector scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of persons engaged in the act of begging. Now, there is SMILE scheme and SMILE program. Don't confuse. SMILE scheme is coming under your Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, whereas SMILE program is different. What is SMILE program? The Government of India and ADB, that is Asian Development Bank, signed a $350 million policy based loan under the SMILE program to enhance India's logistic ecosystem and strengthen its manufacturing sector. So, SMILE program is to enhance the logistic system and manufacturing sector of India. SMILE scheme is for transgenders and people who are engaged in begging. It is to strengthen multimodal and integrated logistic ecosystem. This is the full form of SMILE program, that is strengthening multimodal and integrated logistic ecosystem. SMILE program comes under your Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that is your Ministry of Commerce and Industry. SMILE scheme comes under your Ministry of Social Justice. It is funded by ADB, that is your Asian Development Bank. It is to enhance logistic efficiency, expand manufacturing and improve supply chain resilience. So this is the difference between your SMILE scheme and SMILE program. Coming to mains question, what is the significance of Iran nuclear deal in maintaining regional stability in West Asia? Please do attempt this question. I think we have discussed all the articles in detail which is required for both prelims and mains examination. That's all for today. We shall meet tomorrow with a new topic. Till then, happy learning.